Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your new moon and Gemini transit update reading. The new moon stations exact on Sunday, June 14th at 10:54 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will station exact at 24 degrees and 3 minutes in Gemini. And holy moly, I know I say this for so many of these new moon transits, and honestly, this year it's been like this for all of these new moon transits. But we have some serious heavy hitters in terms of this new moon. And as always, if you see me looking to my right, I've got my notes and the chart to my right over here, just so I don't miss anything, because there's a lot to get through. And rather than kind of going through each of the individual aspects that I see, which I will mention most of them, I kind of want to give a general overview first, just focusing on the sun and the moon. So, the biggest thing for me here is that the sun and the moon will both be in Gemini, which is ruled by a Cancer Mercury. So, the sun and the moon and Mercury together have kind of that cohesive rulership where the sun and the moon are ruled by Mercury, Mercury is ruled by the moon, vice versa, right? And on at the exact minute of the did I say the full moon? I meant the new moon. At the exact minute of the new moon, Mercury, which is ruling the sun and the moon, will be directly conjoining Psyche, the asteroid, which is the seat of our soul. It's the trials and tribulations that our soul goes through in order to discover its strength, discover the indomitable nature of its own spirit. That's Psyche. And when I say it's exactly conjunct, Mercury and Psyche will be 2 minutes apart. Mercury will be at 18 degrees and 32 minutes in Cancer, and Psyche will be at 18 degrees and 34 minutes in Cancer. This kind of precision is seldom seen, except for every other new moon transit we've had this year. But that's why there's an extra emphasis here. It's Mercury, which is our intellect, it's our communication, it's how we make sense of the world in our minds, and also how we make sense of the infinite nature of our minds within our minds. It's how we comprehend ourselves and the universe at large. So coming together with Psyche, it's literally the mind and the soul coming into union. Fun fact, Mercury is going to be exactly on top of my natal moon too. So for me, it's also including my innermost emotions. Like there's a lot going on just in terms of how my own personal chart is being lit up by this new moon as well. But I'm telling you, the mind, the intellect, and the soul coming together to rule over this new moon, where the sun and the moon are exactly conjoining each other. And on top of that, the sun and the moon will make a quintile aspect with Saturn, which will be at 13 degrees and 19 minutes in Aries, and Vesta, which will be at 12 degrees and 12 degrees and 50 minutes in Aries. So those two are only about, 29 minutes apart from each other, less than a half of a degree apart. Saturn and Vesta. Saturn is about discipline, it's long term goals, it's the commitment you have to achieving your long term goals, which includes restrictions that you set on yourself, time restrictions, just restrictions on pleasure, just because you know if I maybe don't go after the short term gratification, I will have my long term advantages in the long run. So I'm okay with foregoing that short term gratification, right? It's discipline in that aspect. Vesta, which again, at 12 degrees and 50 minutes in Aries, is devotion. It's the devotion you show yourself in your ritualistic nature, in your spiritual pursuit of your life, of your everyday activities. It's the time that you spend to show yourself, to show your practice, to show your life and your goals and your mission the devotion it needs in order to properly manifest itself in your reality. So, discipline and devotion coming together to make a quintile aspect with the sun and the moon. Again, we've talked about them before. Quintiles are about mastery. It's innate gifts that you have within you. It's innate gifts awakening within you in order for you to actualize them and make them a part of your forward trajectory, right? Saturn's already like the basis of your long-term forward trajectory. Vesta is the devotion you show yourself so you can be the person you need to be in order to stay aligned to that long-term trajectory. And with quintiles, I've said it before, I will say it every time. It's not necessarily innate gifts that awaken themselves. It's innate gifts that awaken once you put awareness onto them. It's innate gifts that awaken once you become aware of the fact that this is an innate gift within you. Once the awareness kicks on, you're already on the trajectory. So that quintile aspect with Saturn and Vesta conjunction within less than a half of a degree apart. Quintile with the sun and the moon, which is ruled by Mercury, which is directly conjoining Psyche, the seat of our soul. Already, like I said, heavy hitters. And on top of the conjunction with Saturn and Vesta, we also have Pallas on the other side of Saturn. Pallas represents Athena, which is strategy, it's wisdom, it's planning, it's strategic planning. So Vesta is at 12 degrees and 50 minutes. Less than a half a degree away at 13 degrees and 18 minutes, we have Saturn. And then Again, less than a degree away, we have Vesta at 14 degrees and 10 minutes. So all of them, even Vesta and Pallas, are within less than a degree and a half of each other. Vesta, Pallas, and Saturn, all coming together to make this quintile aspect with the sun and the moon, which is ruled by a Mercury, which is directly conjunct a Psyche. This is mythic. Like, this is mythic type of energy. This is, I would say insane, but it's like grounded. It's real, it's reliable, it's practical, it's strategic, it's disciplined, it's goal oriented. It's connected to your psyche, it's connected to your soul, it's connected to your intellect. And with it being involving the sun and the moon, it's your internal self and your external expression. In Gemini, it's connecting you to that playful, youthful energy, that youthful spirit that maybe you lost touch with a while ago. This is a day, not necessarily of reawakening, but igniting. Because remember, Vesta's that sacred flame. It's reigniting that sense of whimsy and maybe illogical optimism where maybe the whole world is burning down around you, right? I mean, quite literally right now, that's what we're all dealing with. Maybe the world is burning down around you and there's not a glimmer of hope that you can see for your future, for the future of the collective, for the future of the people, right? For the future of the planet. There's no hope. But again, there's this illogical sense of optimism that says, but I don't need to see it to know it. I don't need to see the proof because I know the proof, because I am the proof. What I'm feeling passionately about, what I want to move towards, that thing that I consider my ultimate long-term goal in this lifetime, that's the only proof I need to know that all of this that's happening externally, it's not a facade, it's real. There are atrocities and tragedies happening every single day before our eyes, not only to the land, but also her people. We can't ignore that, right? But it's important, especially on the day of this new moon, that we trust in the vision that we have for our futures. Because if we believe in the sanctity of the progress of our goals, of our mission, of our connection to humanity, if we believe in that and hold that vision so strongly, not necessarily tightly, because the vision needs space to blossom, right? Hold on to it strongly and firmly. If you hold that vision has to exist somewhere. You wouldn't be able to see it if it weren't possible. And if that vision is possible, that means growth and progress for humanity as a whole is possible. Growth and progress of the collective cohesiveness is possible. Of the planet and her health and her safety and her sanctuary is possible. You wouldn't be able to see it if it weren't possible. So this new moon, it's telling you, we're just beginning. This is crazy. Preaching over here. This new moon, it's telling you, hold the vision. Hold the vision. These aren't lofty dreams. These dreams are not unreachable. If they were unreachable, you wouldn't have them. It wouldn't be possible to even dream it if it weren't available to you. So, despite everything that's happening externally, despite the flames that are literally burning down everything in front of you, trust in that vision. Because the more you trust in that vision, the less power all of the flames and all the burning and all the crazy and all the chaos and all the hecticness, the less power that has. Trust in the vision. Sheesh. Anyway, like I said, we're just getting started here. But also that's like that's the meat and the potatoes of this whole transit here. Strong prominent aspects, right? So on top of being ruled by Mercury, conjoining Psyche, on top of the quintile with Saturn, Vesta, and Pallas, which are all conjoining each other in Aries. So if you want to see where this is awakening within you, check where 24 degrees Gemini is in your chart. Check where 12 to 14 degrees Aries is in your chart, and check where 18 degrees Cancer is in your chart. See if you have any planets around those degrees in those signs, or even in the signs like trining them. Squares also could be relevant here because again, squares, while they are tense, they help bring things down onto the earth. They help ground things into reality. So look out for the squares. And also look out for the houses that will be ignited by this. That'll give you a hint towards how this energy is going to come about into your reality. So you can grab a hold of it and take off and try and allow that to ignite the vision within you, right? Giving you ideas here just so you can take it and make it more connected to self. But on top of those things, it'll also be the sun and the moon will also make a semi-sextile with Jupiter, which will be at 26 degrees and 50 minutes in Cancer. So less than a 3-degree orb, 2 degrees and 47 minutes. And again, I love Jupiter. I love talking about Jupiter, especially Jupiter's exaltations. And while this transit of Jupiter through Cancer, where it technically is very well placed, we can see exaltations, even with benefic planets, aren't always easy or beneficial transits. I mean, like I said, we can see the vision of the world right now and how the world has shifted since Jupiter went into Cancer last spring, right? It hasn't been pretty. But that's because Jupiter, while we consider it a benefic, ultimately it's just an expander. Jupiter makes things bigger. Whatever it touches, it expands. So if Jupiter is given a plate of, I'm thinking of in Zelda, if you just mix a bunch of random ingredients together with monster parts, you make what's called, I think, dubious food, and it's like just a thing of slop. Like it's just a big fat bowl of nothing. That's kind of what I'm picturing. If you give Jupiter a plate of dubious food, it's going to expand that dubious food. So you'll have a whole bunch of dubious food. It's not necessarily the best, but you'll have a lot of it, right? It expands anything it touches. So because Jupiter's been handed a big plate of dubious food, collectively speaking, that's what's been expanding. But this new moon is telling us while Jupiter is in the tail end of its transit in Cancer, it'll be in Leo by the time Gemini season, Cancer season, Gemini season. It'll be in Leo very soon after this new moon, essentially, very soon after, and it won't go back into Cancer for another until the next loop around, right? So, what you can do while Jupiter is in the mature degrees of Cancer is take that vision, hold that vision, and make sure you allow it to expand because semi-sextiles, while they are a like a minor aspect, they're not very strong and they're not very prominent, they're still harmonious because a semi-sextile is half of a sextile, which is half of a trine. That's harmony in general. It's just kind of like breaking it down into halves, right? So it's still a harmonious aspect. So if you can take the energy of the sun and the moon, again, 24 degrees Gemini, see where it is in your chart, take the energy that is awakening within you from the placement of the sun and the moon, take that energy, allow it to expand your own vision, and allow Jupiter's semi-sextile to act as a background player to help expand that vision within you and around you so you can embody that vision, so you can become the person you need to be to hold the vision, so that vision becomes stronger than all of the noise that's happening externally. I won't get too deep into it, but the reason we're seeing such calamity externally is because the system itself is dying. The system itself is collapsing. And the system has always been built on fear and genocide and colonialism and rape and like everything that's bad, right? Everything we don't want more of, especially if we are in the mindset of unity and collective efforts and community building, and how I can't be sovereign until everybody's sovereign. I can live my life how I want, you can live your life how you want. And that's how we should be moving. It's wanting sovereignty and freedom and independence and choice for every single person, no matter what that is. No matter what that is, that's what we need to collectively be moving to in the highest elevation, right? Because if we have those collective efforts, we create a system where everybody has the opportunity. We're not in survival mode because we are given our basic needs that we need to survive. We're given housing, we're given food, we're given shelter, like we're giving everything we need in order to survive so then we can start to thrive. But the system itself is based in greed. The system itself was always built to collapse eventually, and we're at the tail end of that collapse. So, like I was saying, while Jupiter is at the end, the mature degrees of Cancer, hold on to that vision and don't allow the fear that has upheld the system for as long as it's been here. Don't allow that fear to suck you back in. Don't allow the external noise to be louder than your internal awareness, that internal vision that you are holding. Because again, if you couldn't, you wouldn't be able to see it if you weren't able to achieve it. There's a reason visualization is such a potent technique. There's a reason for it. And that's all I'll say with that. The sun and the moon will also more loosely be opposing Lilith with about a 4-degree orb. Lilith will be at 19 degrees and 45 minutes in Sagittarius. So that's just emphasizing like reclaiming those aspects of yourself, going back to how the system was built on fear, reclaiming those aspects of yourself that you were taught to fear or shame or hide away or repress. It's reclaiming those to represent a part of your identity, because if you reclaim those aspects you were told you need to feel embarrassed or ashamed of, reclaiming those takes the power away from the people that taught you you have to be shameful. You have to repress it. You have to be scared of other people finding that out about you. If you embody that and if you claim it and if you own it, they can no longer control you by using those tactics that try like want to expose that side of yourself that you're trying to hide, because you're not hiding it anymore. That's how Lilith is interacting here with the sun and the moon. It's saying, yeah, I did do that. Yeah, I do think that. Yeah, I'm owning it. So what are you going to do about it? You can no longer use this as a way to control me. You can no longer use fear as a way to control me because I'm owning it. I'm owning this aspect of me. Once you own it, once you claim it, it's no longer a tool for the oppressor to use. That's how Lilith is coming into play with all of this. And Lilith will also be directly in conjunct, not directly, but very, very close, within a degree, in conjunct, where is it? Mercury and Psyche at 18 degrees Cancer. Again, Mercury and Psyche 18 degrees, Lilith's at 19 degrees in Sagittarius. And one of my favorite astrologers, she just changed her name. She used to be Valeria Bordor on TikTok. She's Mother Priestess now on TikTok. Highly recommend. Go check her out. She has a whole coven on Discord if you are a practitioner and you want to join that. Highly, 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 highly recommend the community, and I highly recommend her page. She's incredible. But she recently put out a video explaining how she views inconjunct aspects or quincunx aspects. They're the same thing. Basically, how I always said it, and we've talked about the quincunx. Oh my god, my jaw just cracked. We've talked about the quincunx on this platform before, where I used it as like if you're in a circle and you're trying to talk like not to the person across from you, but like to the person next to them. But it's like you want to work together, but you can't really see each other, and like you can't really like you're not communicating directly, right? She put it in such a way that makes so much sense. Where instead of a circle, right? Imagine yourself at one of those long tables. You're at a dinner party, right? And then you have the two hosts at either end of the table. Or maybe it's like the two parties at like the heads of the parties, the heads of houses at either end of the table. And then both heads of houses, they will put their number one and number two directly next to them. So the heads of houses are opposite each other, right? Number one and number two of each are directly next to them. So number one and number two are facing each other. Number one and number two are facing each other. The heads of houses are opposing one another. Oh, hey, my mailman's here. Hey, they're opposing one another. Inconjunct or quincunx aspects are as if while this main conversation is going on between the oppositions, every once in a while, if one of them says something that the other person is like side eyeing a little bit, they will then make a side eye towards number one or number two of the other heads of house. And that side eye will say a whole lot without saying a word. And that's the energy that she said is like representative of the quincunx aspect. It's almost secretive, where they're not necessarily openly working together. They can't communicate with one another easily or efficiently, but a lot's being said. A lot is still being transferred without having to necessarily be direct, without having to say it or state it head on. So again, while they want to work together, but there's this push pull, this opposition, this disconnect from being able to directly work with one another. They're secretly in talks without having to say a word, right? So Lilith being that side of ourselves, the dark feminine aspects of ourselves that we've been taught to repress and feel shame about, that we've been taught we have to hide and shunt away and pretend doesn't exist, put it behind a door with a pretty little bow and say, oh, there's nothing back there, don't worry about it. Sweep it under the rug, you know? Lilith being that aspect of ourselves that we are now reclaiming, and as we reclaim it, it's so the oppressor cannot use it as a tool against us. Lilith, quincunx, Mercury, again, our intellect, and Psyche, the seat of our soul. So it's our intellect and the seat of our soul indirectly communicating with all of those aspects of ourselves that we were taught we had to hide and keep hidden and stored away. So they're not being overt. And I think especially because Gemini and Aries energy together. Gemini, Aries, and Cancer, they're three energies that are heavy hitters right now in all of this new moon energy. And they're three of the four of the youngest energies of the zodiac, the youngest signs of the zodiac. So there's a childlike energy that's in our faces. That's what everybody can see, right? There's a childlike energy on the surface, but of course Gemini is also a trickster of the zodiac, the youngest trickster of the zodiac. And I actually had this reflection yesterday when I was looking at my own chart. Gemini as a whole, representing the youngest trickster, the youngest air sign and the youngest trickster of the zodiac, there's a reason they come off as childlike and playful and like tee hee hee hee. Did I do that? There's a reason Gemini comes off that way because they are much more intellectual and much more strategic than they like other people to know. Because if people knew the depths of their intellect, the depths of their strategy, the depths of how many steps ahead of other people they truly are, Gemini knows if people knew that, they wouldn't be able to tee their way out of not necessarily accountability. I think Geminis are good at holding themselves accountable and, finding the forgiveness for themselves for the chaos they sometimes reap, but they wouldn't be able to tee their way out of the consequences that they should be reaping. But because they know their way around and how to talk their way out of anything, Geminis are really good at teeing their way out of the consequences. There's a reason for that. So that's what I think this quincunx energy with Lilith, Mercury, and Psyche are representing here. It's almost saying like I'm already owning these sides of myself that you thought that you potentially used for a long time to repress me, the opposition. You use this as a means of control, but now that I'm reclaiming it, you can no longer use it to control me. But I'm not necessarily going to let you see the fact that I reclaimed that. I'm going to put on the facade and the illusion that I'm still shameful, that I'm still repressing the side of myself. Meanwhile, intellectually and soulfully speaking, we're saying a lot to each other. We're having a whole other conversation that the other opposition, will never know about because it's silent. The oppressor will never know the ways in which you've truly anchored into that self awareness and self understanding and reclamation of all aspects of yourself, including the parts that you were taught to fear and shame and repress. The oppressor is never going to know how much you've actually owned yourself with this kind of energy because you are hiding behind this. It's not necessarily a facade either. Gemini is youthful and playful and likes to have a good time, and same with Aries. Aries is the youngest of the zodiac, and we have that energy with Saturn and Vesta and Neptune and Pallas, and then of course with Uranus and Gemini too. Jupiter and Mercury all in Cancer, and Mars is also in Taurus. So all four of the youngest zodiac signs are highlighted right now with very prominent placements. So it's not like we're hiding behind a facade of false innocence, right? There is still that youthful energy at play. It's an embodiment, it's who you are. But because you're recognizing it's who you are, where other people may see naivete, other people may see you as naive because you embody this youthful energy. Behind the scenes, they will never know, again, how many steps ahead of them you actually are because you present youthful, you present playful, you present joyous. And a lot of people don't equate wisdom with that youthful vitality. When in truth, the people who embody that youthful vitality, after the world has beat them to fucking shit, the people who embody that youthful vitality still and never let themselves get hardened or dampened or pessimistic because of what they've went through, they're the wisest of them all. That's the energy of this new moon. That's the energy of this new moon. Being in silent but constant communication with those parts of yourself that, again, have been beaten to shit, have learned the hard lessons. Maybe you've gone through things that you're not necessarily proud of, but you're no longer ashamed of them. Nobody's going to know how embodied you actually are with your totality, your fullest nature. Nobody will know except you. And in true trickster fashion, again, because this is a Gemini new moon, in true trickster fashion, and again, Uranus is also in Gemini, early degrees of Gemini. You can use that to your advantage. Let people underestimate you. Let the oppression underestimate you. Let the oppressor underestimate you. Because then you have the upper hand. Because if they're underestimating you, if they're not taking you seriously, you're already another step ahead of them. Because if they're not taking you seriously, they may accidentally let slip things that they might think will go right over your head because they don't take you seriously. Let them. And take notes. And side eye your Lilith placement, or side eye Lilith in the sky as it's happening. Say, they don't know what the fuck they just told me. That's the energy of this new moon. And oh my gosh, and one more aspect that it's making on top of that Lilith opposition, and then of course Lilith quincunx the sun or the Mercury and uh, Psyche. Sorry, um, we'll also have the sun and the moon nearly directly sextiling Eris, which will be at 25 degrees and 51 minutes in Aries. So less than a 2-degree orb with that one. And you know who Eris is? We've talked about Eris a lot as all of the planets in Aries have slowly passed her one by one. We've talked about Eris a lot. Eris is the goddess of discord. Eris is chaos. Eris is the side of the feminine that just likes to reap fucking hell, especially when she feels she's been wronged or left out or duped in any sort of way. Sextiles are harmonious aspects. Eris making a harmonious aspect to the sun and the moon, which are in Gemini, which is a trickster energy. You can utilize the way people underestimate you with this energy. You can utilize it to silently and behind the scenes cause a lot of chaos in the lives of those or those who have underestimated you. Anyway, I suppose we'll go on from there. Mercury, okay, well, we're going to touch on this one really quick. Mercury and Psyche will also be making. Oh my God, wait, Psyche's involved with this. I only wrote it for Mercury. Psyche's involved with this. A near exact sextile with Eros, who is Psyche's lover. Eros is going to be at 17 degrees and 25 minutes in Virgo, so also ruled by Mercury there. So Mercury will be conjunct Psyche, and Eros will be in a Mercury ruled degree. So Eros, the placement of Eros is ruled by Mercury, which is directly conjoining Psyche, which is his star-crossed lover. Less than a degree orb. So again, I've talked before how I consider Eros in a way similar to Persephone. I consider Eros somewhat a loss of innocence because the love of Eros kind of makes you, while it can be considered puppy love at first, it's so daunting and it's all encompassing and it's like so like they fill up your entire body, right? The love of Eros takes over your intellect oftentimes. It takes over your body, it takes over your mind where the loss of this love can get so extreme that you don't want to eat, you can't sleep. Like you literally lose autonomy of yourself because of how expansive and like soul embodied or soul encompassing it is, right? And then after that, you do eventually get over that, but you'll never forget that person. And after that, that's why I consider Eros, in a way, among other things, a loss of innocence. Because once you know the love of Eros, you can never go back to who you were before you knew the love of Eros. It's a very tough lesson to move through, especially regaining a sense of personal sovereignty and autonomy following the loss of the love of Eros. Because oftentimes the love of Eros comes into our lives as a teacher, but not necessarily to stay for a long time. So it's a teacher that shows us back, going back to how Psyche is related to this, it's a teacher that shows us the true indomitable spirit of our soul, which is Psyche, the seat of our soul in our birth chart. So I really like how they're making this prominent aspect while Psyche is directly conjoining Mercury, because it's almost telling, like, it's like a check-in to remind us of just how much we are just how much we're worth, just how much we're capable of, and also leaning more towards that like sensual aspect of Eros. It's almost and the trickster aspect of Mercury and Gemini in general. And I think Gemini is more trickster than Virgo in terms of Mercury, but I mean Hermes in general is a trickster god, and Virgo is also ruled by Hermes, being ruled by Mercury. But I think Virgo has less of the trickster energy because again, it is a little bit more of a mature energy than Gemini is. But moving on from there, I think with this harmonious aspect, again, with Mercury, Psyche, and Eros, it's a little bit about the loss of innocence and showing you how much you've already moved through and how strong your spirit actually is. But it's also asking you to tap more into those like those sensual pleasures, that sensual side of you that allows you to connect more deeply to the strengths of your spirit, the strengths of everything. And also like recognizing when you are getting too lost in the mind or in the connection to soul and not embodying or anchoring into that embodiment enough. So it's like reminding you to kind of check in with your body while you're having these big expansion, like energies that are uplifting you, getting you into your upper chakras, like really heady energy, right? That's what a lot of this is, this really heady energy, especially with all the Aries energy. Aries rules the head. Gemini is an air sign, like all of this energy here, and then again, Mercury and Psyche. Eros making that prominent aspect is a reminder to just drop into the body, especially with Mars still being in Taurus. That's also just like get embodied. While all of this is happening and you're really elevated, you're really uppity in your mind, get in your body. Tap into sensuality. Get in your body. Because the more you can anchor into your body, the easier it's going to be to allow the expansion to happen. But you need to be like remain connected to the body while the expansion of the mind, the intellect, and the soul is going on at the same time. And just to expand on that, we will also have Mars and Taurus sextiling Mercury and Psyche as well. So that's just kind of emphasizing exactly what I just said about being embodied. But moving on from there, we'll have Venus at 1 degree and 57 minutes Leo, and another direct quintile. Venus will be directly quintile Mars at 20 degrees and 8 minutes in Taurus. And this is the only relevant aspect that Mars is making in this entire chart, other than that sextile we just mentioned. So again, I feel especially because quintiles again represent mastery and innate gifts that we have within us. And I think the main takeaway with this quintile, because there's already a lot of energy and a lot of subtle loudness to everything else that's going on with the sun and the moon. I think more of this quintile is again helping you tap more into that sensual side, as we just mentioned, because Venus is about sensuality. Venus is partially a ruler of Taurus as well as Libra. Venus is about getting embodied and focusing on your true value system, focusing on the fact that you do have a choice in what you accept into your life. So it's tapping into that awareness of like, oh, have I been settling for less than what I actually deserve, less than what I'm worth? And if that's the case, especially making a quintile to Mars and Taurus. With Mars being in Taurus, Venus is ruling over that Mars in Taurus. So it's like this extra emphasis, this added awareness of where have I not been allowing myself to take actions that are aligned with my worth? Or alternatively, have I been allowing myself to take actions maybe in people pleasing fashions or actions that just don't align to my values because maybe I have been being ruled by the oppressor's tools that have kept me repressed and kept me trying to hide away those sides of myself that I don't like. Whatever it may be, it's just this added awareness, this gift of awareness almost that's showing you where you haven't been taking action that represents your true value system, where you haven't been doing things that are aligned to your truth or even aligned to that vision we talked about earlier, where you've strayed away from that vision in order to fulfill somebody else's agenda without realizing that's what you were doing. This is going to be that awareness to say, "Oh, yeah, you know what? It's not going to be huge. It's not going to be like a grand lofty thing, but it's just going to be like, man, yeah, I haven't been being completely true to myself. I haven't been being like the best version of me and I haven't been taking actions that align to the best version of me and also align to what I know I'm worth because you're worth much more than you give yourself credit for. Trust that." And Venus is making a lot of direct aspects here as well. Well, a lot, a couple more. So the exact quintile with Mars. It's also exactly sextile Uranus and Gemini. Exactly quincunx the north and south node. Well, quincunx the north node, semi-sextile the south node. All of those are well, 0 degrees and some minutes. So just because Venus isn't a huge player in this I think I'm just going to move on from those rather than sit. I mean, we're already like 35 minutes just because, again, of everything we talked about already. But if you want to look it up in your chart, Venus again will be at 1 degree and 57 minutes in Leo. Uranus is at 2 degrees and 52 minutes in Gemini. And then the North and South Node are at 2 degrees and 16 minutes in Pisces and Virgo. So if you want to see how that energy will play out, again, they're making exact aspects to one another. But because there's already a lot more going on, and I've already really spoken on a lot of the prominence of what we're going to be experiencing here. Um, so we're going to move on from there and go towards the outer planets now. We already talked a bit about Jupiter. Jupiter is also going to be squaring Eris, which we talked about with the sun and the moon, because Eris is making, what is Eris doing with the sun and the moon? Eris is making a sextile with the sun and the moon and an exact square with Jupiter. So again, because Jupiter is an expander of everything that it touches, with Eris being the goddess of discord and chaos, for lack of a better term, Jupiter can expand on that, but remember that anything in our birth charts can be used as a tool. So rather than allowing Eris to be used as a tool of the oppressor to create more chaos, you can use Eris to foster a sense of stillness within. Again, with that vision that you see for your future that you know is possible, which means because you know your vision is possible, you know the earth can come back to the collective and come back to herself and get out of the hands of the oppressors, right? Because you know this vision is possible, you can use this Jupiter square Eris as a tool to foster stillness within and cause chaos and discord in the oppressor's tactics. In all of the noise, all of the flames, all the burning down that's going on. If you harness that stillness within and allow Eris to be a tool to work for the collective rather than for the few, you're turning the game on their heads. You are using the oppressor's tactics against itself because now you're aware of those tactics. And now that you can foster that internal alchemization of stillness, of awareness, of clarity, of truth, you can utilize the chaos they used to use on us in order to turn it back on them. And while it may cause more discord externally speaking, the more we can anchor into that stillness within, the more other people in the collective will be able to anchor into that stillness and turn that discord back on the oppressors. And eventually that system's going to crumble. That's how you utilize that as a tool because again, Jupiter expands anything it touches. Eris or squares are grounding aspects. Squares bring things to earth. Squares make things tangible. Eris is chaos and discord. If they've used chaos and discord as a means to implement fear into the collective consciousness, we can then reclaim that stillness, own our fears, own the shame, own the embarrassment, own the repressions. Claim them, own them, integrate them, utilize them as a tool to reflect back onto the system, which is causing all of the discord in general, which then will have the discord cause it to implode on itself. Period. On top of that, we also have two biquintiles that Jupiter is making. One with the North Node at 2 degrees and 16 minutes in Pisces. And then the North Node is also conjoining Hecate, asteroid Hecate, at 3 degrees and 42 minutes in Pisces. So Jupiter's making an exact biquintile, well, 1 degree orb, but right in between biquintile with the North Node and Hecate. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but North Node long-term goals, long-term vision. So while Jupiter is also expanding the discord that we're reflecting back to the system, to the oppressors, Jupiter can also help to amplify the innate, or not the innate gifts. Well, yes, amplify the innate gifts that we will be able to tap into to set the collective on that long-term goal towards collective liberation, solar punk, whatever we want to focus on right now, whatever aligns with your vision for your future, that is in the highest elevation for the collective. Align yourself to that because North Node is about the long-term destined path that we walk. Hecate is the mother of witches. She's magic. She's the goddess which represents magic. So it's awakening the gifts of internal alchemy, of the magic that we can use internally speaking to align, because Hecate is going to conjoin the North Node, to align to our long-term destined path. Jupiter is expanding those both. And Saturn, we already talked about with the quintile with the Sun and Mercury. A looser square with Mercury and Psyche as well, but that just plays into what we were saying earlier. And the square itself is a 6-degree orb, so I don't usually count them above five. They still are somewhat prominent above 5 degrees, but it's just my practice. I don't do above five. We talked about the conjunctions with Vesta and Pallas. Um, so yeah, we'll move on from there. And funny enough, Uranus is a very low key player in all of this happening because again, we already have a lot of very prominent yet subtle energies that are going to represent like massive transformation and awakening and alignment, not only individual, yes, individually speaking, but not only individually speaking, collectively speaking. But Uranus is like playing a very prominent background role as the dissolver, as the introduced, as the introduction of um like unexpected circumstances, right? That will end up benefiting the collective once we all get aligned with ourselves and therefore the future of everything. So I'm just going to run off all of the aspects it's making because they're all like within 2 degrees. The first one, it will be exactly square the north and the south node with a 0 degree 36-minute orb. It'll square Hecate with a 0 degree and 50-minute orb, sextile Venus with a 1 degree and 5-minute orb, sextile Neptune with a 1 degree and 25-minute orb, semi-sextile Persephone with a 0 degree and 5-minute orb. So like very, very fucking close there. And then the last one is it's trining Pluto at 2 degrees and 18-minute orb with a 2 degree and 18-minute orb. And Neptune's also going to be trining, or sorry, sextiling Pluto within a 53-minute orb. Yeah, and then the North Node conjunct Hecate. So Pluto is like, so funny enough, Pluto will be on the horizon. Pluto will be conjoining for the chart of the new moon. Pluto's on the horizon, on the ascendant of that chart. But other than that, it's not making a lot of direct aspects with anything else. It will be opposing Venus, but because Venus isn't that much of a heavy hitter here, it's not Pluto's not very loud as it has been in the last couple moon cycles that we've seen. Uranus, it's making a lot of exact aspects, a lot of exact conjunctions, but it feels more like the outer planets right now are taking a back seat and playing a more, that's the energy of this whole thing too, playing a very subtle yet prominent role in the dissolving of what was in order to allow the vision to come through of what's going to be, of what is, period, of what is, dissolving of what was to grow what is and what we are moving towards actively. But we need to anchor and embody into what is in order to allow what is to become what will be, right? So that's a lot of the energy of this new moon. And on top of that, we have 13 quintile and biquintile aspects, right? Because the sun and the moon are directly on top of each other. So we have the sun and the moon quintile Saturn. We have the sun and the moon quintile Vesta. The sun and the moon biquintile the ascendant and midheaven of this chart. So, I mean, that's only relevant for the exact time that the sun and the moon station exact, at again 10:54 p.m. Eastern time. But it's still relevant if you are a ritualistic person. That's going to be a very, very prominent time to start something. Start a spell, and it could be a very potent disillusionment spell. Just saying. Because again, the ascendant and the midheaven, so I think that would count as two. Four? Wait, confusing myself. I think it would count as four because it's the sun and the moon, the midheaven, and that. One, two. Yeah, it'll be four. Anyway, moving on from there, we'll have Venus quintile Mars, Jupiter biquintile the North Node, Jupiter biquintile Hecate, Saturn quintile the Ascendant, again just at the time of the new moon station exact, and Vesta quintile the Ascendant at the time the new moon station exact. Most of them are a 0 degree orb. The rest are a 1 degree orb. And I'm going to emphasize quintiles are about creation. Quintiles awaken innate gifts through awareness. Quintiles are mastery. Quintiles are mastery. There's a way that you can utilize this very youthful, vitality driven spirit in order to attain exactly what you want in the highest elevation for collective liberation. This, and I feel like I've said it so many times this year already, but I swear every time I say it, it's the truth. We're taking a lot of turns, but anyway, I was going to say this is a huge turning point towards collective liberation. It's been a turning point for awakening. It's been a turning point towards the awakening of the goddess, of individuals coming back home to themselves, right? We've had a lot of quote turning points here. This feels like a turning point where the collective is able to take the tactics of the oppressor and sneakily turn them around to use them back on the oppressor, but in a way that the oppressor doesn't even notice what's happening until it's way too late and the system's already imploded. And again, look at how this falls compared to onto your birth chart. I told you the moon is, or my natal moon is directly where Mercury and Psyche are going to be down to the minute. There's other exact aspects that my chart is making with this new moon that I know are going to be prolific in their own realm. Please look at the way this falls in your birth chart. Not only to get an idea of how the energy in general is going to play out, but again, to see where all of that Aries and the Gemini and the Cancer energy falls within your house system. Any aspects it's making with your natal planets as well. Because there are the quintiles, 13 fucking quintiles and biquintiles. 13. And 13 is a spiritual number. 13 is the death card in the tarot. 13, I think the tablets, they're 13 emerald tablets, if I remember correctly. 13, if we look at Jesus, there were 12 disciples in Jesus. 13 is a vastly esoteric number as it is. We've got 13 quintiles and biquintiles, which represent mastery, gifts, and coming back home to yourself in a radical way through awareness. Take heed. Take heed, people. Take heed. Please take heed. I wrote that on my notes. I didn't even realize. Take heed. Again, I think it would be a great time to start some sort of ritual, some sort of spell if you are a practitioner at the moment that this moon station's exact, 10:54 p.m. Eastern time. Light the candle at down to the minute. Pour the water down to the minute. Say your incantations down to the minute. Because again, as this full moon station's exact, we will have 4, 5, 6 of those quintile and biquintile aspects. Almost half of the aspects are going to be making aspects to the ascendant and the midheaven. 6. As precise as you can be. Down to the minute. Start those rituals, start those spells. I'm being called. I don't ever share my cards of the day on here, but I'm being called to do it right now. My cards of the day today were Justice, the Ace of Swords, and then at the bottom of the deck, we had the High Priestess. Oh, and funny enough, the Queen of Pentacles is under the High Priestess. Justice, Ace of Swords, High Priestess. Talk about collective action, collective liberation. And becoming, and what was I talking about? The sneaky energy of the trickster energy. The sneaky energy, including like the energy of Lilith in conjunct Mercury and Psyche. That's High Priestess energy. Saying a whole lot without saying a word. Anyway, that's where I'll end it. Take heed, people. Love y'all. Happy new moon. Bye.